So, e-commerce has changed the paradigm of consumption. Traditional retail looked very, very different. Today, everything is available at a click of a button. You just need to figure. Uh, that is also a function of how we're growing as an economy. It all started with travel. So, Alok, it'll be lovely to have your insights in terms of how travel has really shaped this up.
I think one of the things that made it easier also for travel to be the starting point was that there was really no logistics involved. We are talking about a service which can be delivered in an electronic format. You get an e-ticket in your inbox and you just show up. So I think that made it relatively simpler because we didn't have to solve any of the logistics problems out there.
Sure.
In a way, the supply side, whether it is airlines or whether it is the large hotel chains, they were already tech-enabled to a large extent, and that really helped it take off back in the days. I think as it's evolving, what is becoming very interesting is, the impact mobile is having on the traveler, and how his need is being shaped now, really by the fact that he's expecting an always-on, always personalized for him sort of experience. And I think the travel industry is playing catch up very quickly on that. One of the things that I think e-commerce and travel are sort of different in is also about how much instant gratification we actually seek out of this, right? Because a lot of the end result for travel is actually when you land at your destination and you experience it, or you land at the transportation medium. Whereas here, sometimes, especially with hyperlocal, you're expecting things to be delivered at your doorstep in 1 hour. So it's very interesting how that will shape even the experience and expectations on the travel industry. And it's already happening with cabs, where you expect a cab to show up, in 20 minutes at your doorstep, or maybe 10. Otherwise, you're just going to switch to another app. So yeah, things have shaped up to a very much instant personalization, on-demand kind of environment from where we started.
Super. So Sahil, you are within the food tech space. Food tech space is something which is, there was travel, it moved to e-commerce, food tech picked up in a big way. There's phenomenal amount of investment which is coming in. There's a lot of innovation which is happening. Yeah. What is your, what has been your experience of food tech, within food tech?
See, I think in the last 1 year or so, food tech industry has kind of exploded. Like, at the time, like in early 2014, post early 2014, we saw a lot of these on-demand platforms where people were ordering, like the likes of Swiggy and Tiny Owl, etc. They came up where people want stuff to be delivered to their houses, like what Alok mentioned, on demand, right? I mean, that is what is the key today. I mean, people want stuff to be delivered, like convenience is the key, right? That's what Dine Out is focusing on. That's what any other platform today is focusing on. Everyone wants convenience, right? Nobody wants to walk out of the house or even drive to the place, whether it is a restaurant, whether it's a shop, whether it's getting food at home, whatever it is. People don't want to do that. And that's what I think is enabling the hyperlocal services today, whether it's a Grofers or a Pepper Tap, where people are getting groceries as well delivered today. Health Card is delivering medicines to your home. Dine Out, we're helping people reserve tables so that they don't have to wait outside. Convenience is, I think, demanding everything, and that's where all these on-demand startups are moving. And today, if I look at it, from where we started off, right, Dine Out, where almost in 2011, about 80% of our business was coming through calls. Like today, 80% of our business is coming through the apps, right? So 80% of the people are booking on the go right when they're in the parking lot. They're booking a table right when they're in the mall, right? Like, 10 minutes before they're actually reaching a restaurant. So everything is on demand, and that's what is defining e-commerce, travel, cabs, everything. I mean, that's how it has changed.
Sahil, while you say that, I think it'll be interesting to understand how the numbers shaped up. All of us live in a very, within the space that we operate, which is the startup ecosystem, you are constantly talking numbers. How have the numbers panned out? So from where you started, you were the pioneer, one of the leaders in that space when you started out. Right. How have the numbers shaped up? So what was the scene in the first 6 months when you started out?
What does this number look like today?
I mean, when you look at the, dining out space, right, reservation, it was when we started out in 2011, 2012, the question that was asked to us, whether it was investors or anyone whom we would talk to, is that who reserves tables today, right? I mean, that was the biggest question which was being asked. And just convincing the people to actually go out and reserve a table itself was a task. People wouldn't believe that anyone would actually need a table reservation, right? So starting from there, we've obviously, where we were doing about, when we started off from 500 diners a month to today about 35,000 diners a month is how we've grown over the last couple of years, right? That's been the growth. And I would say this growth has kind of exploded post early 2014, right? When the mobile smartphone market kind of exploded. That is where, so if I would say like in December 2014, we were sitting at about 8,000 diners a month. So we've kind of quadrupled in a year. Right. In a year and a half, we've kind of quadrupled the numbers. And this is set to grow even faster for us.
Sure.
Right? With the pace at which now, see, the other challenge for us was even at the restaurant tech side, right? So when you said that, food tech is growing, but the restaurant tech is still at a very nascent stage. So getting a waiter in the restaurant to actually start using the technology is the biggest challenge. That has still not been kind of overcome, whether it is a Food Panda or a Tiny Owl or anyone be out there, right? Maybe in food ordering it's a little better, but in terms of table reservation, when on a Friday or a Saturday night when a restaurant is packed, they just can't deal with technology. They're like, hey, we need to, hospitality is our core and I don't have time to deal with your technology, right? So breaking that barrier and, getting them on board would be the key. I think that, in 6 months or 8 months time, once we manage to break that barrier and those restaurant merchants actually come on board in a big way, I think it's going to explode even faster. So for example, right now we are exploring, in fact not exploring, we're planning a pilot wherein we will be enabling in-restaurant payments through the app itself, right? So now imagine you can book a table at Dine Out, you get a 20% discount, you land up at the restaurant, the waiter knows it's a table for Ashu, and once you finish the meal, you can pay through the app as well. So it's like completely, automating your experience and making it so convenient that you don't need to wait for the bill to come, you don't need to wait for the waiter to attend to you and so on and so forth. So it's just, making it much simpler and smoother for the user. And to add to that, if I add the piece of getting the customer to order as well through the app, right, in the restaurant, then it just, completely makes it
Completes the cycle.
Completes the cycle for the user.
And how does the next couple of years look in as far as food tech is concerned?
So I think the next couple of years, the innovation is going to come on the restaurant tech side. I mean, getting the merchant tech going, getting him on board, getting him connected to the devices would be the key. So today, for the last 10, 20, 30 years, the restaurant has been just dealing with the POS, right? And it is a very fragmented industry in the restaurant market. Now, breaking into that POS market, getting them to share their APIs with us, getting them to, come on wallets, like whether it's on a MobiKwik or a Paytm, whatever it is. I mean, getting them to start using that as a payment methodology would be the key. Once they start doing that, that is when you will see a lot of consumers also using it more and more, because then what happens is that the credits are lying in my wallet. I can use it to shop. I can use it to pay at the restaurant.
And it becomes
I can
seamless.
use it anywhere, right? And that is where it'll become more and more connected, right? So that's where we are heading. And I think once that restaurant tech side breaks through, that's where we will explode even faster.
Lovely. Naveed, coming to you, you are in a very, very exciting space, right? So I think B2B e-commerce is something that everybody's talking about today, right? I mean, Alibaba has made its, aired its views about, entering the space.
Sure.
This is a space which is, not really, I mean, there's been some effort which has happened, right? Truly, innovation is something which is about to, about to happen, right? You are possibly at the point of starting the B2B or
Correct. So we are already 8 months into it.
Sure.
And definitely, serving close to lakh plus businesses across 600 plus cities. We definitely see a interesting convergence between the consumer behavior, technology, and how it's shaping up, followed by the travel wave, followed by the B2C wave, and how the customers are now adapting to technology when it comes to their businesses and, let's say, manufacturing. So primarily, let's borrow from the three fundamentals which any tech platform is nonetheless supposed to deliver. One dimension is, of course, the convenience side of it. And the convenience in B2C, B2B space is moving beyond the definition of just on the demand, correct? It's also about how much you know about me. how much customization can I get? So for example, in a business, I buy hundreds of items every month. Can I go and set a buy frequency on your platform so that 5th of every month, the goods just appear on my doorsteps? That's one way in which the convenience dimension is being challenged in B2B space. Second is what tech platforms are supposed to deliver is ability of an end consumer to discover product, to select and to have choices, maybe choices to the extent that you are so confused that you don't end up making a purchase decision, right? But yes, it's our ability to research, get the information correct, and then act upon it, which in B2B environment is nonetheless very, very much missing. If you are looking for a drill bit or, for example, your lab supplies, you know just top 3 to 4 brands, and there are millions of SMEs into this space who want to avail an opportunity from the supplier side I'm talking about, so that their products get discovered. And obviously there are buyers who want a cheaper yet better alternate to be available. Finance is the most interesting thing when it comes to B2B space. Obviously, B2C is moving from the prepaid and COD phenomena to, towards the wallet kind of a thing. In B2B industry, we are forced to relook at this problem from how do we redefine prepaid, that is the credit line. Can there be a technology integration which can happen between end consumer, that is the business, and his or her existing financial history, that is banks coming on this platform, and on the fly you generate a line of credit, let's say if not on the fly then maybe within a week, of something like a million rupee for that matter. Can we really challenge the financial aspect of e-commerce transaction beyond net banking, beyond cash on delivery, and beyond wallet? Is one challenge which is really looking on face at B2B. And I must say that there are quite a few developments which HDFCs and the likes of ICICI are doing from the buyer side. We have heard about a couple of NBFCs like Capital Float, which are doing fantastic effort when it comes to the seller side of the story. But yes, the buyer side of line of credit, which is technology enabled, I think will be a next big phase which India will be seeing.
Lovely. Sort of coming to you. I think everybody's talking about wallets. I think that makes the entire process very, very smooth. I think this is something which is which is being invested in in a big way. There's a lot of work which is happening. Give us a sense about how is this space panning out?
So yeah, so everybody I guess talked about wallets in some way or the other. So that gives me lesser time and lesser things to kind of explain. But I think these are very exciting times when I look at it, whether that's food, whether that's travel. Everywhere we kind of sit on top of that and try and make day-to-day transactions very, very seamless, easy, painless. So if you look at today, the world without wallets, you're largely looking at a space wherein you're trying to book a ticket, let's say, or you're trying to book a restaurant and pay finally for the service that you're kind of ordering. And then you're jumping from one side to the other, trying to remember your credit card details, figuring out your CVVs, then getting OTPs, filling them in, and all that for 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees spend that you're going to do. So that's where a wallet comes in and kind of makes that life easier for you. So what we do is we sit on top of some of these services and you choose us as the payment option, and then the wallet kind of understands you once you've registered for the first time, and basis a simple OTP, your transaction is done. So it's very, very simple. You can do it online, you can do it offline. It also brings into the entire portfolio financial inclusion in a big way. So even today, the penetration of credit and debit cards in this country is very, very low. And debit cards typically are handed out to you because you open a bank account and not because you want a debit card. And all you end up doing with that card is possibly withdraw some ATM cash. And otherwise, there are people who also keep it in lockers, with the view that this is something that I don't want to use and I don't want anybody else to use.
Sure.
Yeah. And wallet makes all of that very, very easy for you. It's secure, it's safe, and it's fast. And what we see very, very clearly is that the uptake of wallets today, when we sit at about a 20 million base today of users who use MobiKwik, is that largely the population is one who've kind of were born with technology, and guys like us who were not born with technology and are now kind of making a dash for technology are the ones who are picking it up now. But if you see the earlier traction, is largely 22 to 30-year individuals who took on to it because of the ease, the speed, and kind of taking the pain out of payments, really.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one space. And I think where we are headed is, of course, even more exciting than that. So I think largely the way the game or the way that it kind of pans out is that the acceptance of the wallet will kind of create the necessity to use a wallet. When I say that, what I mean is today you can use it for a lot of your online transactions, for your travel, for your food ordering and stuff like that. But we are also very, very aggressively looking at how we make your offline purchases through a wallet. So you go into a medical store or a mom and pop store in your neighborhood next to your house, and you can pay using a wallet.
Sure.
What it also takes care of that you don't necessarily need to kind of carry cash and change and all of those pain that come along with it. We already have tie-ups offline with a couple of things, like you can walk into a cafe coffee day today and order a coffee and pay using a wallet. What it does is the ease again that comes into play.
Right.
Plus, on top of that, there are certain, you kind of sweeten the deal by giving them a free coffee or something else, and that's what is kind of driving the traction right now. Where we've seen a large part of the growth coming from is tier 2 and tier 3 towns, which people would typically think are towns wherein the wallet usage would be low. But we see a lot of people in places like Surat, Ahmedabad, Kochi, Lucknow, Kanpur using wallets for their day-to-day transactions.
Right.
And I think that's the space which will grow very,
So I
very
think that's a lovely point that you've raised. I think it's very critical to understand the shift in the demographics. Alok, how is this panning out? In the travel space.
It's actually panning out in a very big way. In fact, as a company, sometime early last year, we shifted gears completely to say that the real opportunity is not the 60 million or so flight travelers, who flew last year, but the 300 million or so people who are out there who are experiencing a travel app for the first time. They've just bought a inexpensive phone, 5,000 rupee smartphone,
Sure.
and largely tier 2, tier 3, probably travels by train or bus and stays in budget hotels, below 1,000 rupees a night. Is anybody solving their pain area? And we said, fundamentally we realized that if we roll back a few years, all the companies that started in what I call the pre-2014 era were built for desktop web in mind, right? And then they moved to mobile web, and then they built apps, etc. I think the fundamental shift that is required to address the new population that's coming online is to think mobile first and perhaps mobile only. Right. So that's one of the first things that as a company, you need to start thinking of yourself as a mobile company. I'm sure most of us sitting here are already thinking that way. The second thing is you've got to think of content and use cases that make sense for those people, because when we sit and design products, we are thinking of our use cases, and that has to change. You have to think of the guy, in a Kanpur or Bhopal or, Nagpur, and think of what are his challenges,
Right.
but maybe even go to the level of a Jhansi and figure out what are his challenges, right? Because then sometimes they're very different. So, I think getting the right content on board, making sure that it's either localized or simplified to the
Right.
extent that these people understand. One of the things we did for budget hotels, we realized that none of the online travel agents had enough inventory in the sub 1,000 rupee category. Sure. We actually went out there and aggregated 10,000 such hotels across 65 cities, and we are probably the only app where you can find these hotels. They're not bookable online, but we give you an option to call them and talk to them directly, right? Because that's how they're booked anyways, right? So I think you've got to think of what is that dominant use case there for that kind of user, the tier 2 user, the tier 3 user, and can you use mobile as the medium to bring him closer to the supply side? And in some of the spaces we are in, the supply side is still not enabled. It doesn't have the technology, it doesn't support the payment methods. So some of the companies like us have to also introduce those things.
Right.
Give them the technology, give them the payment methods to start taking those transactions and start making those things happen. So it's actually going to the long tail and making sure you can bring the long tail online. And that's going to drive the next phase of growth, because most of the SMEs out there are still not online. They're still not able to take transactions. They're still not able to reach out to these tier 2, tier 3 customers, which form the majority of their audience, right? So I think that's where even in travel we see the biggest opportunity. How can you solve for, the uncle ji who's taking a trip to Shirdi? He's just been gifted a phone by his son, and he's taught him how to use these apps. Can you solve for that problem? He's going on a pilgrimage for 1 week. Can he get the content he wants? Can he book this trip on, on his own? So unless we get there, I don't think it's done. Yeah.
And how difficult is that? So how difficult is it for an Uncle Ji to learn and pick up? I mean, what are the trends in travel?
Surprisingly, so what we have seen, we have this very popular app for trains.
Right.
And one of the things we've seen there is when we look at our demographics and we compare with the average in the travel category, we have a huge skew towards older users. So I think our average user for that app is actually around 38, 39 years old. And we have a lot of users, almost 10% users above the age of 50, which means, these are people who are in tier 2, tier 3 towns. Sometimes they're businessmen, small business owners. Sometimes, they're just, parents of a lot of people in tier 1 towns. And we are seeing that as long as you build something really, really simple, right, and you don't think and worry of the bells and whistles upfront in the product, the experience has to be so simple that it doesn't even need to. I'll give you an example. Like PNR tracking is a very simple use case, and knowing whether a PNR is confirmed or not, PNR prediction. We have made it so simple that you even don't need to tell us the PNR number. You install the app, and we already know all the PNR sitting on your phone, and we start tracking them for you. So the moment the guy installs the app, we are saying, hey, by the way, you have a wait-listed ticket for 3 days from now, and the probability that it'll confirm is 80%, right? So, small things like that where you don't have to do anything, it's seamless, where you're using predictive analytics to sort of guess what the guy will do next and give that option to him upfront.
Right. So what Piyush mentioned, I think we are already, in some forms, we're already there.